The interim government in Bangladesh has completed 100 days. In a speech marking the occasion, the chief advisor, Mohammad Yunus, urged the country for quote-unquote patience to prepare for fresh elections. But the interim leader did not give a time frame for the much-awaited polls. Yunus has appointed to lead the government as chief advisor on August 9th, days after a student-led uprising ended Sheikh Hasina's 15-year-long rule, and he was tasked to create an atmosphere of political stability with the ultimate goal being fresh polls after electoral reforms. After completing 100 days in power, Yunus vowed an election commission will be formed within a few days. But he could not give a time frame for the elections. He said that it was dependent on a raft of election and constitutional reforms.
We want to establish an electoral system that can be followed for generations to come. This will save our country from recurring political crises. I'm asking you for the necessary time to achieve this. Once the decision on electoral reforms is finalized, you will soon get an election roadmap.
However, in another interview, Yunus also said that the tenure of the interim government will be less than 4 years. Talking to Al Jazeera, the Nobel laureate, in fact Bangladesh's only Nobel laureate, said that the exact time frame for the interim government's tenure has not been determined, but it should be under 4 years. That's for sure. When asked that staying in power for 4 years would be same to serving a full electoral term, Yunus responded by saying that it was not his intention.
There were attempts to spread unnecessary panic among religious minorities. In some cases, they were subjected to violence. However, the narratives surrounding these incidents were completely exaggerated. The few incidents of violence that did occur were primarily political in nature. But these incidents were given a religious facade to destabilize Bangladesh once again.
The 100 days of the interim government has been marked by reports of attacks against minorities, including the Hindu community in the country. Hundreds of people marched in Bangladesh's capital just last month to demand protection for Hindus and other minorities. Attacks have also been reported on Sufi shrines. The interim government has acknowledged the attacks as by the interim chief himself, but said in many cases that they were motivated by politics rather than religion. In the recent interview, Yunus also claimed most of these reports are propaganda and went on to blame neighboring India for it. Yunus has also said that his administration was focused on ensuring those guilty of cracking down on the protests to oust Hasina faced justice. Bangladesh has also issued an arrest warrant for 77-year-old Hasina, who flew to neighboring India as crowds stormed her palace. Yunus has said that Bangladesh will seek the extradition of Hasina, who has been charged with crimes including massacres, killings and crimes against humanity. And to get us some perspective, we are now being joined by Zarif Fayaz, a journalist from Dhaka. Mr. Fayaz, thank you so much for joining us here on this broadcast.
Thank you for having me.
Let me begin by asking you, how is the overall reception of the interim chief saying that he needs more time for electoral reforms in the country?
Right. Reception among the public has been somewhat neutral, and we kind of all expected that this government will need some time to carry out these reforms that they've undertaken. And we understand that. But political parties, particularly the BNP, is of course pressurizing for an election as soon as possible. But the public perception so far, from what we've seen as journalists, is that the people agree that this government needs time to carry out reforms.
Right. I'm also happy that you mentioned BNP, because Bangladesh Nationalist Party strongly believes, many of its members believe, that it will come to power in the next elections with Sheikh Hasina's party almost out of the political frame. The party has also been calling for quick elections, as you correctly mentioned. But I want to ask you, since there is no time frame laid out by the interim chief, and given Bangladesh's political history, do you think political parties will remain calm till Yunus's electoral reforms are fulfilled?
It's difficult to say. BNP has, of course, its current leader, Tariq Rahman, has mentioned multiple times in his speeches that his party will fully cooperate with the interim government. But also other leaders, other party members have said that they want to hold protests and campaigns for an early election. But I think in the end, PNP will keep pressurizing the government, but I do think they will remain calm.
All right. Now, it's very complicated given everything that's unfolded in the past few months in Bangladesh. But from a taxpayer's point of view, how should one view this, especially given that the interim chief hasn't laid out any time frame? It's been 100 days after all.
What I'll say is that the interim government has taken a lot of simultaneous efforts to reform many things. If it has set up multiple reform commissions in many sectors that were completely destroyed and politicized in the last 15 years. So these reforms take time, and 100 days is not, frankly, a lot of time. But so far, we've seen visible progress in at least two key areas. The economy is on its way to recovery. We are building strong diplomatic ties. And I think the government is on the right track, although there are scopes for criticism, but I think the government is doing good work so far. And once they get a clear picture of how these reform commissions are going to work, these reform commissions are currently being set up, and they have opened their door for public opinion and feedback and etc. So once we have that clear picture of how the reforms are carried out, I think the government will be able to give us a correct roadmap for an election.
All right, we're looking forward to it. Mr. Faiz, thank you so much for joining us here on WION. I look forward to speaking to you again.
Thank you.
For all the latest news, download the WION app and subscribe to our YouTube channel.